Mark and Sarah Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be creating a wedding card, and I'm going to feature this Altenew Garden Delights stamp set and the coordinating Garden Delights dies. I'm going to be creating a circle card, so I'm also going to use this circles die set from Carnation Crafts, which is a real go-to for me, partly because it goes up to a really big size, so the biggest circle is just over 6 inches, and also because there's quite a fine gradient between the circles. You get a lot of dies in there, so it means that you can have kind of as thick or as thin a layer between each circle as you want. So I think the 5-inch circle is my most used one, so I've cut 2 5-inch circles from white cardstock, and the cardstock that I'm using today is this Linda Chapman's World of Paper one, 250 GSM. That's a nice bright white cardstock. So I've cut 2 5-inch circles, and then I've left 2 dies between this larger circle, the 5-inch circle, and this gold circle, and then the next white circle is 1 down from that. So you can see that the gold circle measures kind of nearly 4.5 inches, and the smaller white circle measures nearly 4.25 inches. So let's create our card blank first. So for the back of the card blank, I like to have a straight edge to stand it on. So I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and I'm just going to trim 1/2 inch off one edge of my circle. So that'll kind of be where it stands up. So then on the other edge, I want to just line that up at 4 inches. So I'm lining that up at the 4-inch mark here, and then I'm just going to score that across. So then I've got a parallel score mark here that I can just fold in, and then I'm going to glue that along there. So I'm just going to place my glue above the score line, and then I'm going to glue on my card front, and then you've got your card blank. And you see how it stands up nicely? It doesn't rock because we've got that flat edge at the back. So let's put that to one side. So I'm going to create our flowers now. So this is a layering stamp set, and you can see there's a lot of different layers. So this flower, there's A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. But the only ones I'm going to use today are A1, A3 and A4. So don't feel like you need to use all the layers of every stamp. You can mix and match a bit. Some you might want to use all the layers, and some you might want to just use a couple. And again, with this one, I'm going to use B1, which is this one. I'm going to skip B2. So I'm just going to use B1, B3, B4. And there's a B5 and B2 that I'm not going to use. And the same with the leaves. For this one I'm going to use D1, D3, D4, not D2. And for this one I'm going to use C1 and C3, not C2. Because I don't want to add, it's a wedding card, so I want quite a lot of white and gold with just a hint of colour. So I don't want this kind of full colour. So I brought in some cardstock scraps here. I'm just going to go over with my embossing buddy, because I don't want any stray powder to stick anywhere. And I like to use up scraps of card for things like this, where I'm just kind of stamping flowers, but then I'm going to cut them out. And I'm going to stamp all the outlines in VersaMark ink, and then I'm going to emboss them in some gold embossing powder. So I'm going to stamp one of those larger flowers, 2 of the smaller flowers, and I'm just kind of fitting them in where I've got a piece of card that's big enough for them. And then I'm going to stamp 2 of each of the leaves. We might not use them all, but we'll see. So then I'm going to pour over the embossing powder, and you want a nice fine gold embossing powder for this. Now I'm going to grab my heat tool. I'm just going to heat those up. And if you've not done much heat embossing before, the point that you want to stop heating it is when it turns shiny and you can't see the grains anymore, and you want to do it as soon as you see that happen. So then for the large flower, I'm going to use this piece which is called A3, and I should show you actually that the stamp set actually comes with this stamping guide, so it shows you how to layer the flowers and the leaves to make the ones they've shown you, and it also shows you some ideas of how you can use the flowers for different things. So you can see all four together there, really lovely, and they're just kind of nice card ideas. Tells you what inks they've used as well, so it's a really helpful guide, and it's a really nice layering guide as well, so that you can see where they put the blue bits. That's where you line all the pieces up, so looking at that really can help you to get a nice finish. So then I'm going to take my Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink. This is the range of Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to ink up this piece. And I've used this a few times now, but if I didn't know where to line it up, I could just refer to the guide that comes with it. You have to excuse me if my head gets in the shot, because these things are quite hard to line up without looking over the top of them. So we've got that there, and then I'm going to use the same colour with B3, which is the piece for this size of flower. So let's just ink that up too. And you can see that I didn't quite line that up properly. I'm going to have a look over this one a bit better. I was trying to keep my head out, but you can see that one's lined up much better. This one I'm still going to use though, because I don't think you'll notice when it's like the finished card. And then with these ones, I'm going to use this cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide ink. So I'll use C3 for this piece and D3 for this piece. So it's really nicely labelled for you, so it makes it really simple to identify which piece goes next and which piece goes with which leaf or flower as well. So then I'm going to go back in the order that I did it, so that the ink's nice and dry underneath. And I'm going to go over with my embossing buddy again, just to make sure that there's nothing sticking on there, because I want to do another layer of ink, of heat embossing. So I'm going to use, this is the A4 piece, and I'm going to pop that on here, and then I'm going to heat emboss each of these as I go. You might not be able to see on camera, but I do have a few speckles of the dust sticking to the pink, but I think I'm going to leave that and let it add some texture. So then for the smaller flower, I'm going to use this piece, which is called B4. Just put my finger on this and just go over that with my embossing buddy again. And then there's no extra piece to use with these leaves. I've got the D4 piece to use with the double leaves. And then I think I'm actually going to do this flower again, because where I thought that I would like that texture that from the dots of gold, I actually prefer this cleaner look. So I'm going to do that flower again, so that I can get the cleaner look for that flower as well. So you can see I've got a much cleaner look now. Then I'm going to cut these out using the coordinating die. So I'm going to stick these down with bits of washi tape so they're nicely lined up. So there's all my die cut pieces. So then I'm just going to layer up my card. Well, in fact, actually, before I do that, I need to just put my sentiment on here. So I'm going to use this Wishing You a Happily Ever After from the Celebrating You stamp set from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to heat emboss that with the gold in the middle of this smaller one of the white circles. So I'm going to glue my layers together. And then I want to make sure it goes on upright. So I'm going to stand my card up, and then I'm going to put glue on the back of here, and I'm actually going to line it up on here so that I can make sure that I'm happy with how straight it is. And then I'm going to put it down to press it down. And I'm just going to lay out my flowers on here, just how I want them. So I don't want anything to come below this line because then the card won't stand up properly. But I'm going to use a 5x5 inch envelope, so it doesn't matter if they come off a bit in this corner because the envelope will contain this. But I don't want it to come off too much this side, and I don't want it to come off the bottom because otherwise it won't stand up. So I think I'm actually just going to use the 2 leaves, so I can use those for different projects. So let's glue those down now. And then I'm just putting some dimensionals on the biggest flower, and see that just pops up in the middle. So then I'm just going to finish off the centre of the flowers with the Stampin' Up! Gilded Gems. These aren't current product, but you could use any kind of gold gems. And there's the finished card, so I think that's a really cute wedding card. I actually also made this version. So the only difference with this one is that instead of using the gold as this third layer on the flowers and the leaves, I used festive berries for this kind of brighter pink, and I used the pine needles for the brighter green on the leaves. So I think that this one gives a more classic look with the extra gold. This one gives a more kind of summery vibe for a nice summer wedding. But I thought I'd show you them both so that you've got ideas of how you could change it up as well. Let me know in the comments below whether you prefer the gold one or the more colourful one. And I think that these are really nice for not just weddings, but you could just change the sentiment and use them for birthdays, use them for all sorts of occasions. I don't think they're really specifically wedding, it's just that I'm going to use this as a wedding card. This one's actually going to be for my cousin. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this project. If you have, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future projects. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. The products that I've used today are linked in the description below, and if you do want to use any of the products that we've used today, I would really appreciate you clicking those links. It does give me a small commission if you purchase something, and that really helps me just to kind of keep my channel going and keep producing these videos. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.